So to start off with question 4, my experience with feedback before this class was, last semester. When we were doing feedback, it was online, so, there was a lot of like disconnectedness, kind of how I mentioned in my essay. Um, the lecturer would, give us a small worksheet, which was like suggestive and epistemic, and just leave it up to like the student to find whatever error um the giver of the feedback saw, which just kind of led to them giving weak feedback and just like, oh, fix punctuation, which I guess is helpful, but it's if I wanted feedback on punctuation, I would just use Grammarly. um and honestly, it felt like a chore. It was like, I did not want to do it. I don't think anyone else wanted to do it because it just kind of was like, what's the point, if I'm just gonna get, punctuation and, you know, and when we actually were doing feedback, we were like in groups, and again, there was like a disconnectedness between the groups, and usually mostly because like it was online and we weren't really seen face to face and we couldn't really talk, so it just kind of was like, did you do this? Yes. And it was just kind of, it wasn't really much of a connection when we were doing feedback as a group, and it was just not very productive. So now that I have classes in person, especially English, it has definitely taught me a bit of how I interact with group members, how I interact with feedback. For example, is how I mentioned, just like the structure and just leave it to to the student to like find whatever error they see, which kind of just led to like punctuation. But in this class, we asked we no we asked we told um our peers what we were struggling. For me, in project 2, I was kind of when I was doing my animation, I struggled with coming up with for a scene for for my animation, and I got the answer that was like really helpful, and I wanted, they gave me the suggestion to have the blob walking to the library expressing his thoughts. I didn't really use that part, but I did use the blob walking into library. And I did use some of the self-talking bubbles for like my other scenes for the animation, which was like very helpful. As you can see here, I did use it.
Well, because it's more easily available in other
And I just put
places,
available.
and because there's easy
um,
access to computers
yeah,
to use
and
this.
I did use it for to convey how the the little character was feeling, like so far. And this part too, where it's like nice and it's like, ugh, like being at home and just like being able to do like whatever you need to do, like doing feedback in your own space and being like, oh, this is nice, I'm relaxed, I can focus on what I want to do, versus like having to go all the way to the campus to, to go do some feedback, and some of us like live like 45 minutes away from campus, just being there, just like, I don't want to do this, It definitely, like, the feedback session definitely did help, you know, by being able to tell, someone like what we were struggling on, which, it's going to be very helpful for other classes when we're, I guess, doing feedback sessions, or, whenever I'm doing my own individual essay and I'm asking like a friend or, a relative, or um, the writing center even. I think the writing center just kind of like, what problem are you having? And they just kind of like help you with that. It can be like really helpful for the future. Um, Secondly, it was when, I'm giving feedback instead of like me receiving it, I have to just kind of keep in mind of like how, the person who's asking for help is feeling, So for example, with Michelle here, I was giving her feedback. She was just kind of saying like how she was just kind of like overthinking. She was a little bit frustrated because she couldn't really um how to like start off her paragraphs for her secondary source and just organizing it. And I've been there before. I think I was having that problem with my essay too. So, I kind of did help her out with, with a little bit, a little bit. Oh, this is the wrong one. Did kind of help her out with like some of her sources. Yeah, I did try and help her out with like starting off like her secondary sources. I hope it did help. But it did definitely motivate me to like go a step beyond. Usually like if I was just like I was like before when I was giving feedback, I wouldn't really like. I'm like, I don't really want to do all this. I'm just gonna like, do something very simple. Versus like now knowing like being empathizing with her in her situation, like putting myself in her shoes, and just kind of thinking of like where I've been there before. I was just kind of like did motivate me to kind of go a little bit above and beyond, just kind of like give her a suggestion of how she could potentially like write her how she could start off her paragraphs. I don't, usually I do sometimes get asked to from friends to like help them out with essays, and I think kind of just empathizing with them and just kind of like seeing where they are at emotionally definitely will upgrade how I give them feedback. And lastly, group work, it 100% is easier to do, because now I'm like talking to them face to face instead of just being, in a computer screen, or texting them through like, I guess, WhatsApp or, whatever app there is to like connect with your classmates. And it definitely did help me with taking everyone's perspective into consideration. Sometimes, when I do group work, I don't really like listen to others. I'm like, we have to do it like this and this, and if you don't do it like this, it's terrible, And I think what really, really helped me do this was for discussion exam, a reading exam over on Planet 3 and 4 and 5. So we all had to kind of do our own little drawings and how we relate to it, but we did kind of have to discuss with each other about what it was what was the reading about, and we just kind of sort of had the same idea, but we had our own perspective on it. I was kind of like, we can definitely see how different it is. I think that reading was about how we all have different perspectives. We all have different ways of looking at things because of where we came from, of like our background, how we grew up. Mine was kind of just like you're in two different places and there's a wall between you and you guys aren't seeing the same thing because one's on the other side and the other one's on the other side, and arguments kind of happen because of it. Which I think it happens in group work too. Sometimes you have disagreements with your group mates. And then for Jacob, I think it was just kind of like putting yourself in the shoes of other people to see their perspective, which again is super important when doing group work. And then for Jenica, it was the dresses, which like one was, I think, one was blue and the other one was like, I think yellow and white and then blue and black. And just kind of like, again, seeing things differently. Like for me, I saw like the yellow and white one, but I know a lot of people saw the black and blue dress, which definitely just hammers in the idea that everyone has a different perspective, and each perspective is just as important as your own. So I definitely did learn, taking into account everyone's perspective when doing group work, which I'm pretty sure I'm going to be doing in the future for the remainder of my degree. Something to keep in mind, when I'm doing group work. I haven't been doing group work this semester for other classes, but I'm sure I'll do it for my other classes.